welcome to another episode of Beyond the Black Rims. I'm Mars Girl.
I'm Josh Knight the First.
This is Season 3, Episode 11.
Or Episode 57 if you're counting.
And it's been slightly over a week since we broadcasted last, because we broadcasted early last week for the sake of Godzilla. We can talk slightly about that in a moment.
Yeah, we don't want to do we don't want to get spoilerish with it.
I don't even want to like review it for the whole next hour, but yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff.
I don't know what else we should talk about immediately right off the bat before we get into any of that nonsense, though.
I guess it's okay to say that we finished filming a little bit.
I told you I didn't really want to reveal too terribly much about that, but now that you've said that,
nice. It's
okay,
good news.
So,
it's positive news.
We wanted to do our own. I guess you can call it a collaboration. I think other producers would call it crossovers, except he doesn't do videos very much. So, some of you might remember I used to do translation and adaptation terror videos. One that I had considered talking about for quite some time was the American 1991 movie, The Guyver. And that being something that we were both interested in, him actually knowing more about source material on it than I did. We really wanted to talk about it, so we wrote a script and we filmed it.
Yeah, because admittedly, that's always been one of my favorite series ever since I was a kid, being interested in it, and then into high school finding out about it. I mean, look at this mess right here. VHS, it goes that deep.
Now, I was saying I didn't really want to bring it up publicly because I had no idea how quickly I would be able to put turnaround on it, so I don't want to put a whole lot of hopes up right now. But yeah, that's a thing that happened.
That's a thing. And then, usually at the top of the show, we talk about something that's a little interesting for everybody else to talk about. And I guess we'll just bring it up a little briefly. There was this music award on Sunday, right?
Oh,
the American music...
Oh, yeah, it was Sunday. It was Sunday.
Yeah, and they had this performance, I guess you'd call it, involving a Michael Jackson... I guess you'd call it a hologram?
That's the term that they throw around, but usually when they say hologram, they mean they're projecting it onto some kind of film or sheet or something.
And, it goes back and forth, whether or not, was it good, was it bad, should they have done it? It was entertaining, to say the least. I just think... And this is just personal taste. They should have gotten a guy to fill in for him who was a little quicker on the moves, Well,
I think the dancer was not a very good Michael Jackson impersonator. The part that was really scary and uncanny valley, though, was the fact that they mocapped this dude's face and mocapped Michael Jackson's singing face on top of this guy's face.
Kind of similar to the way they did in Tron Legacy with Jeff Bridges. They had a younger actor there for Clue, and then they mapped Jeff Bridges' face onto his face, thus making him, younger, tightening up his skin, things like that.
So it was scary because for a second there you go, whoa, is that actually Michael Jackson? But then sometimes you see the little herks there that make it look not real, and you go, oh, now I'm creeped out. This is Uncanny Valley. And it was...
it was a little weird. I'll say, they do that because they've got the quote-unquote new album out. I mean, you can say new, but it's really older material that he didn't release. It's a little iffy to tell whether or not, that was the best thing to do. I think at least half the album is good. At least half. Preferably the half they didn't mess with, but, that was a thing this weekend. It just goes to show, how far we're getting with technology, that we can get to a point where a lot of people, if you look on the internet, were fooled.
Some people were fooled, and now we're kind of getting into these discussions of, oh, is this to be done? And do we continue to do this with other celebrities that we've lost,
Like, I'm putting it way into the future, and this is probably won't happen sort of thing, but say you are to pass at some point, would you want somebody to CG render you back to life and make you talk along with them in a review?
Not especially. No. I really wouldn't. No. Just leave me alone, okay? Just let me be dead, alright?
Alright.
Just let it be. That was barely a nerdy subject right there, but let's go ahead and talk about the main stories that we will be talking about here in a few more minutes. One of our topics is going to be Left 4 Dead. You guys know it and love it through Steam, or perhaps through console releases, you know, Valve's first-person shooter. Well, it's getting a Japanese arcade machine release, and it's getting a few minor alterations, but for the most part, they don't really mess with the game, and they're kind of cool, and we'll tell you about those in a little bit.
And then after that, we'll talk about the CW coming out with their Flash series. Last week, it was, since we did it a day early, we weren't in time to watch the full 5-minute teaser. Well, now that we've had access to that, we've been able to see it, look through it. We'll talk to you guys about our thoughts on that, and really, CW's got a promising feature there on their hands.
And finally, our final third story for the night will, of course, be Sailor Moon, and I know I talked about it before on previous shows, and in fact, I was pissed that the license had been dead for like 10 years. Well, shut my mouth!
Yeah, isn't it the funniest thing? Because you were complaining about that for weeks and months about this, and then lo and behold, the day after our show, the bomb drops.
Yeah, so we'll be talking more about what this licensing of old and new Sailor Moon means. But before that, you know, we did talk about a little bit earlier, by a little bit, like 2 minutes ago, a little bit of Godzilla.
Yeah, so we'll give you guys, as brief as we can make it, our thoughts on Godzilla. First and foremost, liked it. First and foremost.
Yeah, I will say this much. If you're concerned it's going to be 1998 Matthew Broderick Godzilla all over again. No, absolutely not. Is it a perfect Godzilla movie? No.
Well, I'll say as much as throughout the whole movie, you can definitely tell there's a respect for where they came from,
That's
from
what
the
I'm
original
saying,
movie.
Yeah, it's definitely respectful of, oh, this is a piece of media from Japanese culture, but we want to show that we enjoy it too, and we understand how this character works, why this character works. There is a core understanding of how Godzilla and most Godzilla movies function. I think the biggest complaint you'll hear out of us, and probably the biggest complaint you've already heard out of most other people, is that you don't see enough Godzilla, and you don't see enough fighting until the very end. But when you get to the end...
Oh, it's worth it.
Like, it's completely worth it.
I've said this much, and I've said this to just about everybody we've had a conversation with about the movie, and by this point we've seen it twice. Like, we just saw it again yesterday.
Mostly because we had other friends who hadn't seen it yet.
You know, so perfect timing. But, you know, after watching it twice, you come to this conclusion. What the director, Gareth Edwards, does in the movie, it's a dirty trick, but it works. Basically, what he does is he implements the plot in a way that basically gives you cinematic blue balls.
Basically,
you know, because he teases something's going to happen, and then it doesn't. Then he teases it again, and then it doesn't. So by the time it finally gets around to the thing you're really wanting to happen, and we're not going to spoil it, but we'll talk about it afterward, when it finally gets to that moment, the whole theater is dang near on their feet cheering for the thing that you're waiting to see happen.
Yeah, but the people who were there, like, opening night, you know, they're all the Godzilla fans, and so that monster fight blue balls was angering.
Yes,
very, very angering. If that's what you're sitting and waiting for, you might want to wait for it to hit a nearby dollar theater and then maybe only walk in 2/3 of the way through the movie. If that is like,
or at least halfway through the movie.
Okay, half to 2/3 of the way through the movie.
But as such, since you brought it up that way, because we did the show early last week, we saw it, the 7 p.m. showing that last Thursday, and as such, we got to tell you guys about what happened at our showing. So, not too much of a spoiler, at a certain point in the movie, you know, the monsters in the movie are attacking Hawaii, and there's a portion of the movie where the monster kind of derails a train, and lights are going out because of the monster's power, and you see the characters kind of gripping for somewhere to grab onto in the train, and there's more blackouts happening. Right at that moment, our projector goes out, and the lights go out. And we were pissed.
There was booing and
cursing and all this stuff. And, you know, they have the ushers come up and say, guys, don't worry. It'll just take us a few minutes. We'll get it up and running. Just sit tight. But this is an opening night crowd at the Alamo Drafthouse, which some of you know is like one of the best nerdy theaters to go to. So, you know what this crowd does? They don't just sit there and take this mess. They bust out their cell phones with their flashlight apps. They've got Godzilla toys there. They've got cell phones with the soundtrack. They started making the movie. They take their flashlight app and they start projecting their Godzilla toys onto the screen.
The shadows, shadow puppeting Godzilla movie madness while somebody on their cell phone is playing. And then somebody brings out like King Ghidorah.
Yeah, and we had a good 3-minute fight thanks to shadow puppetry from the audience, and then the movie came back up, luckily right where it left off. That was just a great experience to have.
Really, yeah. Movies. Nobody would ever say that the projector going out was a great experience except for that moment. Yes. That was a good moment.
But definitely, we do recommend going to see it. It's at least worth your money for the last half when things get real. Because when they get real, they get real.
But again, I think if you have watched previous Godzilla and other Toho monster movies, you will see that they had appreciation for their source movies. Even if you didn't think it was the most perfect Godzilla movie, good appreciation.
Yes. And as such, almost immediately from a $93 million weekend, sequel has been greenlit.
Heck yeah.
So whatever,
hoping for more well-known monsters out of Toho.
Whatever wasn't delivered on in this movie, we'll probably get in the next one. But, moving on, we've still got, a few other updates to give you guys. So, of course, we've been talking about the Gem movie, how that's progressing. Well, this week they added 2 more members to the cast. They added Juliette Lewis and Molly Ringwald.
Neither one of which have they announced what roles they are playing. I don't entirely understand where Molly Ringwald would fit in, except other than the fact that she was like every single classic 80s movie you can
those
picture,
John Hughes, The Breakfast Club, 16 Candles, she was the 80s. So having her in this movie kind of makes sense. I wouldn't doubt her being in some important role of some kind. Juliette Lewis, on the other hand, she's not exactly young, but she does have singing talent. Personally, I don't see them putting it past her to be one of the members of the Misfits, if not the leader of the Misfits.
I'm just saying, if they were, granted they're not, but if they were going by source material, then the holograms would be approximately the same age as the Misfits, and Juliette Lewis is not the same age as those girls that they've casted in the holograms. She's like a couple decades older.
A little bit.
So, I don't know. I don't think I would be pleased if that were to happen.
Well, you were saying, because of the fact that she has singing experience, you said you didn't put it past him to be, for her to be cast in the role of Jem's mother.
Well, yeah, because there's one episode in the TV series where they go over what happened to Jem's mom, or Jerrica Benton's mom, and her mom sings. She did sing, and then Jem later on has to find the old tapes and then make an album out of them because her music never got released, whatever. Yeah. I think that's possible.
Yeah, I remember that episode, that music is left behind, they make an album, and then they put out the holograms on a musical... Wait a minute. No, I'm talking about the thing at the top of the show. I'm getting them confused. But moving on with the stories. Major thing, but we'll probably talk more about it later once things are further expanded upon. The 16th Kamen Rider of the Heisei era has been announced, what the show's going to be called, under the name Kamen Rider Drive. So this is usually the time of year where that announcement gets made. For the past couple of years,
so you think this is reliable?
This is usually reliable because it's been around the 20s of May for the last couple of years that we've been announced. Okay, it's going to be called Forza, it's going to be called Wizard, it's going to be called Gaim, and now this one Drive. It's about the right time. We're over halfway through the series at the least, so it's about the right time to start thinking about casting, and they're already starting to film the summer movie. So if there's a cameo to be had in the movie, they wouldn't want to license the next writer to be in that movie.
Well, you were right when we were talking about this earlier. Now that I think more about it, what does a common rider who usually rides a motorcycle need with a car?
Well, yeah, because you see...
you figure that means that he's going to drive a car.
Right, with a name like Drive, you think car or something of that nature, and it's you can drive multiple things, but I wouldn't put it past them to try and give him a car. And a Kamen Rider hasn't had a car since Black RX. And
even that thing was kind of barely a car. It was a very interesting motorized vehicle.
Yes.
But I don't know that I would
I want to say that there's a reason why they haven't tried to do that since. I mean, I guess they want to take another crack at it. If they want to do that, fine by me. I'm just in
saying
charge
it's pretty
of costumes and design.
The bike is pretty much the last thing about the series that's still, like, retained as far as this is what makes a Kamen Rider a Kamen Rider.
Because I'll give it that much, based off the way they've been crafting Gaim, at least there's been a consistent use for the bike. Mm-hmm. They haven't just forgotten that it's there, and I appreciate when a series does that.
When was the last time we saw the bike, though?
Maybe about 2-3 episodes ago.
Oh, okay, that's
they
not
use
so
it,
bad.
And transition from their world to the forest.
Well, I know that, but I haven't actually physically seen them do it in a little bit. But anyway, that's for people who are actually keeping up with the series.
Decent series thus far. Decent series. But, that having been said, once we get scans and a press release, we'll talk to you guys more about that. That'll probably be a whole story in and of itself. Mm-hmm. And then the last follow-up we had to talk about it. We've been saying, what did we develop here? The hashtag, not quite Justice League.
Yep, that's the truth.
We were saying that in lieu of them actually deciding what this movie was going to be called. Well, now we do know what it's going to be called. It's going to be called Batman v Superman.
The V means versus.
Dawn of Justice.
Wonder what that justice means.
I don't know.
I mean, it's probably not quite Justice League.
Not quite Justice League. That just it's weird when WB and DC kind of validate the joke you made on them.
Yeah.
Because that title reeks of not quite Justice League. Mm-hmm. They're trying to push so hard that this is the setup for the next movie, and there have been any number of jokes made at the expense of the title since this was announced like 2 days ago. And it's laughable because you think they would have come up with something better than that. And I know I had made that post on Tumblr about, all the different add-ons you can put, Dawn of the Day of the Age of Justice League Now,
of
Part
2. Of the Time of the Dinosaurs.
Part 2, Electric Boogaloo, Slappers Only, Fox Only, No Items, Final Destination. Go team.
But yeah, I mean, the title is very like, oh, did you think that up all by yourself,
Yeah, like how many monkeys at typewriters did they have that it took them to come up with a name for that? Like, honestly, a lot of what people have been agreeing on, they should have just called it simply World's Finest, Batman vs. Superman. That's it.
Right. And some other people are saying the same thing, too.
Yeah, because in people's minds, and I keep going back to that cartoon crossover perfectly encapsulated what that movie needs to be.
Oh, yeah, of course. I strongly feel that DC's most solid contribution to media outside of their comics is, in fact, their animated universe.
Yes.
Because they sure as hell aren't pulling their weight when it comes to their Hollywood movie universe.
Yeah, because there have been enough jokes made at their expense because of this. Like, they should have named the subtitle Trying to Catch Up to Marvel. Which is basically it. They're trying to play catch-up, and they're trying to rush it. And as such, we get a crappy title.
Along with a very concerning idea for a movie.
Yes. But there's worse things along those lines. And I just remember this one other, and this is, of course, to report this as news. This is just in the follow-up. Maybe you guys can take this with a grain of salt, maybe not. Mm-hmm. But purportedly, IO9 released a proposed synopsis for Jurassic World.
Ah!
I love it when that happens. Okay, so this is the plot according to
I can't even believe that this is reported as possibly real. Go ahead.
But this is the story, supposedly. So, Jurassic Park reopened, and they're kind of doing bad business. People don't want to necessarily come and visit anymore. Why would they? So, someone has the bright idea at the park, hey, if people aren't paying attention to these DNA-altered, resurrected dinosaurs, you know what we should do? We should mix their DNA together and only use the deadliest parts. And deadliest parts of other animals and make a super dinosaur. And then we should let that get released out into the open.
That sounds like a wonderful idea. Like, if that is true, then what was I saying? I've said this on air before, too. What was I saying about Jurassic Park no longer having the mysticism and the wonder? Oh, we discovered this place and it's got dinosaurs. How did you do this? I'll show you. And instead it becomes a monster movie. Yeah, and if that synopsis is true, then so am I. Because that's...
pretty much.
God.
And then the worst part about it there is like, well, how do you stop a super dinosaur? You use a trained velociraptor and a trained T-Rex to hunt it down. Domesticated dinosaurs, people.
Domesticated, vicious dinosaurs. You, took the most rabid and off-the-street pit bull of the dinosaur world, and then you tried to domesticate it and tell it, go, fetch,
Sit. Maim. Yeah, there's kind of a Pokemon vibe there.
Lunge.
I don't know. Well, like we said, we're only reporting that as hearsay. Once we know for certain, you guys will be sure to hear about it.
I hope to God we report that it is absolutely not for certain. I'm hoping to God.
Well, here's hoping. But that aside, let's get into our first story.
Alright, so we were talking about Left 4 Dead?
Yes.
Yeah. Alright, you see these characters here? You don't recognize these characters, do you? Well, that's okay, because I think you should get to know them a little bit. We don't really have names for any of them. We heard, one name in a video. But
what was it, Hirose?
Yeah. Hirose is the name of one of these characters, and I'm not sure which one.
I believe it's the schoolgirl.
I want to say it's the schoolgirl. Like we reported at the top of the show, Left 4 Dead is getting a Japanese import. I think they do have their own PC and console versions, but specifically, they're getting an arcade version, which is really interesting because it's at one of their it's at one of their sit-down machines, their sit-down cabinets, and to control it, you use a mouse as well as a Wiimote nunchuck. For movement's sake. So you don't use a keyboard and mouse, you use a nunchuck and mouse.
See, by this point, I've managed to use both in the game, because, I've played on both console and, my laptop here, and I don't know that necessarily the game lends itself to using a Wii nunchuck, because I've gotten used to both. I can, use a 360 controller just as easily as I would use my mouse and keyboard.
Well, if you're using the 360 controller, all you're having to do is cut the 360 controller in half, and then you're using the Wiimote nunchuck.
I guess.
That's just for navigation
just
purposes.
Something about that feels weird to me.
But just the next time we play it on 360, I'm just gonna tell you for a little while, okay, now don't shoot, just follow me, and just go like this.
Yeah.
That is what you will be playing in Japanese arcades. So, they're not using any of the 4 characters that we know from Left 4 Dead, nor any of the 4 characters that we know from Left 4 Dead 2.
Yes, no Bill, no Francis, no Coach, no anybody.
We do, however, although we do not know their names except for maybe one of them, we know that one is a bartender, one's a schoolgirl, one is a half-American, half-Japanese tour guide, and the other one was
a university
student. So
you can kind of tell from the picture that we've got here who's who, from left to right. Okay, guy on the end, he's probably the university student.
He's the university student. Clearly there's a schoolgirl standing right there. They specifically say it's an American bartender that they've got. You can tell which one there is the American, despite the fact that he's the shorter of all of them, in fact.
You can't be a short bartender?
He's shorter than the schoolgirl. Now, granted, maybe these characters aren't actually to scale with one another.
I would think so.
In fact, I don't think that they are. And then finally, yeah, that tour guide, she just sort of looks like a Jurassic Park tour guide. I'm not really sure what.
Yeah, so there you go. There's all our characters.
And despite the fact that 3 or 2.5 out of 4 of them are Japanese, this does not take place in Japan. It's actually still using our Left 4 Dead maps in America.
Yeah, so every map that you have access to over here on your console or on Steam, those are the maps they're going to continue to play. Now, we bring this up, or specifically, I'm going to bring this up because if you're going to give us 4 new characters, to me, that's halfway to a Left 4 Dead 3. Why didn't we just get new maps?
Well, actually, we do have the ability to build our own maps. They could just leave it up to fans to build new maps, and I would hope that somebody would somehow be able to source these characters out to us eventually. I think that would be really cool.
Because you
I would
yourself
play again with these new characters who I'm sure relate more to a Japanese audience.
Because you yourself have been there to the country and have been around there. Can you think of some optimal places that you would want to see as levels in Left 4 Dead? Like right there on the strip at Akihabara.
Yeah.
I mean, all the different things you could do, hide in these little shops, things you could pick up along the way, cosplaying zombies coming at you. That would be fun.
That would be pretty fun. I would play a Left 4 Dead that takes place in Japan. I think that would be entertaining.
You know, you have to climb to the top of Tokyo Tower to try and get rescued, you know, from a helicopter, things like that. Like, if I'm able to come up with this stuff and I'm not employed by Valve, why can't they do it?
Because Valve is kind of only doing bare minimum to release games these days, quite frankly. It's really interesting that they're bringing Left 4 Dead to Japan, especially in arcades, because really, Japan is not a country of people who are especially into first-person shooters. Now, they did release a version of Half-Life 2
Yes, that's right, you were telling me about that.
Arcades. It was really weird. You sat in, like, this bubble dome thing, and the chair moved and stuff. And supposedly the idea was to eventually, potentially bring it stateside, but it didn't do so hot. Not surprisingly, Japan's just a different audience.
And then wasn't there also that Castlevania game, arcade game
from
Japan?
The Castlevania game, or Dracula as they simply call it, it's a rail shooter. No, Japan is like the inventor of the rail shooters. You know, your Area 51s, your Carn Evil. That's
Area 51 is my stuff right there.
That's
I love Area
our
51.
Rail shooters. But we're talking like House of the Dead. Like, they are the captains of rail shooters. And that's what Castlevania was. In fact, it was really friggin' cool, too, because it wasn't a gun. You had this stick, this wand, and actually it was a whip. You were a Belmont, and you got a whip, and you go, wah, 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 just swing and flail wildly. And I mean, I wouldn't recommend doing that, but you could.
I would do it. Hell yeah, if I'm a Belmont and I've got a whip, I'm gonna whip somebody. I'm gonna let it whip.
Oh, and it had a vampire killer in it, so you're whipping through things. It was
Dracula, I made your favorite pot roast. But as such, you know, they have a fascination with zombies. Like, have you seen how many weird zombie movies they put out a year?
Oh yeah.
However many are over here already on Netflix, it makes sense that they would want another zombie property over there in Left 4 Dead. And, you know, let's not kid ourselves. Despite the fact that Valve is afraid of anything with the number 3 on it, Left 4 Dead 2 still sells. It's still just as popular as when it first came out.
You bought it this year.
I bought it, yeah, because I got tired of borrowing your copy.
Well, yeah, because we couldn't play together.
Yeah, now we can, and it's fun.
So I'm wondering if perhaps using our game with characters that perhaps a Japanese audience would be more interested in getting to know. I mean, I'm interested in getting to know these characters no matter where they came from, but
right.
It's a sad thing to say that I don't necessarily think all Japanese people feel the same way. So I'm wondering if this will help them get into the genre, or perhaps if it's popular enough, if we could just get the models and get them voiced over here, just so I can play them in my Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2
Well,
maps.
if they were,
that
they
would
were at
be
least
a
made
whole
as
new replayability.
If they were at least brought over here as DLC, basically, that would be fine. I would at least live with that. But the other thing I'm thinking about, because, you know, Japan does love zombies, and they also love those interactive events as such, you know.
Right.
Interactive events for Monster Hunter, there's that park for it, or Biohazard or Resident Evil, that whole attraction. What if they did the same thing?
Over at Universal, yeah.
Over at Universal. What if at Universal, this takes off, and instead of doing Biohazard nights over Universal, they do Left 4 Dead nights?
Oh, man.
And they have those infected roaming around, and you get to shoot them with the laser pistols. It would be sweet.
I would want to go pretty much just as badly as I wanted to go to their Biohazard event. Very sad, very limited time event. But it was during Halloween, right?
Yeah, during Halloween. That would be the perfect time to do.
Yeah.
Like imagine how hyped you would get to see this giant foam tank running at you, getting ready to bust you up into a wall.
And he just gets only so close to you to make you afraid he's gonna punch you in the face.
Yeah, or you've got this giant fat suit, why can't I remember right now?
Boomer.
Boomer, and then it just, like, sprays foam on you or something simple.
I don't know if they would let them do that.
I'm just saying, that's freaking cool.
It would be cool.
That would be amazing. Somebody do that over here. Somebody get some friends together, get some foam, get some spray cans of
you know what?
silly string.
Maybe this year at Zombie Walk we shouldn't be the survivors. We should be the different special infected.
I don't know, because, you know, every year it's always we see hunters, we see witches. I saw one boomer last year, and then I don't think I saw any of the other special infected.
Yeah, very sad. No jockeys.
No jockeys.
Never any jockeys. Never any spitters either.
Or smokers, no.
The spitters are pretty ugly, though.
Yeah.
So, anyway, we're kind of getting a little off topic, I suppose.
But yeah, basically, I'm saying that this is great that they're getting this console. I'm just saying, at least give us DLC for the characters, or if not, just give us a whole nother game.
I would
prefer that.
I'm also kind of hoping that Japan gets on the boat with some first-person shooters anyway. And if it's going to be a first-person shooter, I personally prefer it if it comes out of Valve, because I think they have some of the more entertaining first-person shooters that don't feel militaristic.
Right. I think that's what makes Left 4 Dead so accessible, is that you're not playing as someone who's, well, not every character is ex-military or has training. They're just kind of Joe Schmoes you kind of accidentally bumped into, and hey, you've got a gun, I've got a gun, let's try and get out of here.
And they're keeping each other alive, right? Exactly the point of the game. So, I guess that having been said, there's not much more to elaborate on for the time being.
Let's be on the lookout for those characters over here.
I would hope so, anyway. So, you know a little bit more about this than I do, although I did watch this trailer for Flash coming to the CW, as this picture clearly says.
Yes. As such, yes, the 5-minute preview for The Flash is now available online. You guys can see it for yourself. Like we said before, we weren't able to watch it last week because we did the show a little bit earlier, but now we've had access to it, and really, people have been complaining, oh, well, this is pretty much just episode 1 in a nutshell. Yeah! It's a teaser. It's supposed to make you want to watch episode 1. So I think it's doing its job.
Right.
You know, so that's kind of like a dumb complaint to me.
I don't know, unless they really wanted to be surprised by the first episode.
But as such, you know, they need to build this in such a way that people who don't know who the Flash is, which there are still people, not everybody has the same knowledge, people don't know who Barry Allen is. Mm-hmm. You know, the last attempt we had at the Flash was 20 years ago. So this is the first take live action that anybody will have seen in a while.
Of course, 20 years ago, I mean, as cheesy as it was, I don't think it completely blew.
No, I don't think it completely blew either. It just kind of had the same trappings as a lot of other series. It just didn't have the ratings, and they kind of struggled with how they balance out comic book villains integrating into the show.
Well, I feel like that older Flash series was like, yep, this is a comic, and we'll just tell the comic, except in live-action format, and they, you know, it could only cater to a comic fan, really. Well, so it was like, really, you had better turn your brain off, or else you're not going to believe any of it.
I don't know about that. I will say, though, that probably tonally, that 90s Flash was closer to what we have now in Arrow, in that a lot of the villains that they did bring in were very much rooted in reality, not quite super-powered. And here, it's the complete opposite. Here we're going in, you know, balls to the wall, we have powers, we're dealing with metahumans. We're not afraid to call them metahumans.
Which is the exact opposite issue that Arrow had at its time of launch.
Right, exactly. Nowadays, since the two cross over quite clearly, you know, there'll be more of an opportunity for that in Arrow, but really where those kinds of characters are going to shine is over here in The Flash.
So these TV universes, as you just said, they coexist.
Yes,
they're
absolutely
the same
100% connected.
Are they connected to any other piece of DC media?
That's the thing we've been wondering about. And since, you know, we're talking about, you know, Dawn of Justice coming up, I feel weird saying that.
As if it's a real name.
Yeah. But Hardy har har. Point being, I still think, based off the visual world that they've created here, the way everything looks, the way the city looks, I don't think it's that far off from saying this central city is too far removed from what we've seen in the metropolis of Man of Steel.
You might be right.
Because I think they've really done themselves a favor in setting up a world that looks real. in that respect. And that was kind of the problem they had with Man of Steel, was they were trying to make it real, while at the same time, you're trying to make a real world around somebody who can fly, shoot heat out of their eyes, and can get away with wearing glasses and nobody recognizes him. Whereas
just
here,
give up, basically. Just stop trying.
Like, can I say this off the top? Grant Gustin looks likable as Barry Allen, which is a key thing, I think, to the character. He's supposed to be quick. He's supposed to be nicer than most of the other Justice League members.
Quick-witted.
More lighthearted. There's going to be a little humor there. And as such, it looks organic the way he goes about learning about his powers, getting his suit, things of that nature. And that's all stuff that's going to get covered in the first episode. But from that point on, you got to deal with, okay, well, what are the problems he's going to deal with? What about the other villains? Right there in the first couple of seconds, we're immediately teased with Reverse Flash having something to do with the death of his mom. And if you know anything about the comics, the death of Barry Allen's mom is a really big plot point, that he has to deal with throughout the comics and things of that nature. So delivering that right off the bat, like, hey, in the first, 15 seconds of this trailer, here's a major villain getting teased, that's great.
So how long do you think that major villain would last in a series like this? When do we move on to other villains? I mean, I know we don't even have an episode 1, but if you're talking about something that big right off the bat, I don't know, maybe part of me is a little concerned that, like, they're jumping the gun, or...
Well, see, here's the thing I'm thinking about, because normally we would be worried about that, but as such, they've already cast 3 villains thus far for this show, and that's a good start.
Well, okay.
I don't think they've already cast, presumably, the guy who will be Reverse Flash. They kind of changed his name a little bit. Rick Gosnett will be playing a changed name, Police Detective Eddie Thawne, kind of a play on the first name, but Thawne is the key name that would be tied into Professor Zoom or Reverse Flash, whichever one you call him by.
I feel like Reverse Flash would be a guy who goes very, very slowly.
You would think, based off description, so calling him Professor Zoom kind of makes more sense.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, we'll just call him Zoom or Professor Zoom, for him. And then we've also got Caitlin Snow, who basically will become Killer Frost down the line. And that's fine, he's dealt with ice villains before. It'll be nice to see how that works.
And he outrun cold?
Yeah, he can outrun cold. But,
they'll be... ruined everything for me.
But as such, he'll deal with, oh no, my feet are too frozen, I can't run, or I've got to vibrate out of things. Like, that's what I want to look forward to. He doesn't seem to have complete control of his powers, and that's something we're going to have to walk through with him again. Is, okay, how do I learn how to do this? How do I learn how to do the things he's known for in the comics? Can I vibrate through walls? Can I go...
Or I didn't even know I could do that until I just did it.
Can I vibrate myself to bounce bullets off me? Can I go back in time? Like, no, okay, now that's the thing we got to worry about, because there is a bit of time travel involved with the Flash.
Because he can run so fast, he can do that.
Right, exactly.
Not my favorite element, but okay.
No, by no means, but really the thing to think about is that they're probably not going to go straight to time travel so soon, but then again, they might, considering, if you know anything about Professor Zoom, there's an element of time travel there. The other thing that a lot of people bring up, and I think we've brought this up before, is that his girlfriend, or eventual girlfriend, Iris West, in this story is African-American, or half African-American here. And people are trying to get in a little bit of fuss over that, and like I've said before, is there really a point?
I'm saying, who gives a crap? No. Does she still portray the same personality? Is she still a person? I'm pretty sure she's still a person.
Is she still a person? Is she still attractive? Does it seem feasible that the two of them will get together later? Yeah.
Well, I don't even care about at least 2 out of 3 of those things. I more care about, does she fulfill the same purpose as her character does in the source material? If she does that, who gives a crap what her ethnicity is?
Yeah.
Who even cares?
Because it's the same thing that happens, in any comic when you try to mess with what's supposed to be canon. Like, people complaining, oh, well, how come Nick Fury's black now? No, shut up. He serves the same function. Miles Morales as Spider-Man, no way, he's no Peter Parker. Yeah, he's not Peter Parker. You can still have, your Peter Parker who's Caucasian if you prefer that. Some people prefer Miles Morales. It's you can have what you want.
It's a different character entirely, though.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not... But they're writing an entirely different character there. I don't understand that. I do slightly understand the gripes about racial diversity within the Gem movie that they've just casted.
Yeah,
because,
you're right.
like, I think Gem was really well known for being like, yeah, we've got all ethnicities all over the place in here, and they got, you know, some people who were... They were just barely the correct ethnicity, but they looked more white than they did the other ethnicity that they're supposed to fulfill. I'm sure they're gonna play perfectly good roles, but it was the idea of, hey, this band is full of all kinds of different people from different backgrounds. Yeah. I kind of get that.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I think so long as it tells a good story, in the end, I'm probably not gonna care.
Right. And then, getting back down to it, this is a special effects show, so we talk about, well, how does the Flash look when he runs? He looks about the same as he does in any of the DC animated movies when he runs. Yeah, you know, just a lightning bolt basically all over the place. A little yellow and red lightning bolt.
Mm-hmm.
Lightning bolt. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. But, you know, that seems fine to me. These effects seem just fine when time slows down and he's moving faster. It seems natural. It doesn't seem labored. It's not cheap CG like you'd see on, like, the Sci-Fi Channel.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is going to be interesting enough that people are going to want to watch, get used to this character, and then he'll gain even more popularity. Because he's already... If you know The Flash, he's a fan favorite.
Oh, yeah.
You know, if you've watched Justice League, or, you know, that one episode he had on the Superman the Animated Series, he's a fun character, whichever version of him we're talking about. If he's Barry Allen, Wally West, Bart Allen, whichever Flash it is, he always kind of serves that purpose. He's light to balance out anybody else who's dark. You know, if Batman's brooding, or Martian Manhunter's brooding, you've got him there to kind of poke fun, or... you know, lighten the mood a little bit. And that's really what he's there for in the CW, to lighten the mood away from Arrow. So you can still have your superheroes the way you like them. If you like them a little darker, go to Arrow. You like them a little lighter, go to Flash. And that's fine. It's good that there's going to be some diversity there.
Right, I agree.
So as such, you know, they got picked up for a full season. So we're pretty much assured that they're filming all of that right now. It remains to be seen, as we've been saying, whether or not it's going to go ahead and fit in to Batman v Superman down the line. I still would prefer that it does, even from this trailer, especially now that I've seen this trailer.
So you think that the inclusion of this perhaps makes it more solid, this core DC universe that maybe we're used to, that they're not... It would give you confidence that it wouldn't stray too far from source material?
Well, because here's what I'm saying. You know, yeah, does it look like Batman vs. Superman is a rush to get things up to Marvel's level? Of course. But at least with The Flash having his own series, you don't have to put him in a movie. You've got episodes. You've got, like, at least 16 some odd episodes to flesh him out. Longer than you would have in a movie. That way, by the time he gets into the movie, you don't have to worry about introducing him.
That's true.
An audience would already know who he is. That's really making it easier on them.
So you think it's a good thing that they're fighting this media war on different fronts?
It would be nice if they did. It would be stupid if they didn't. Those are basically my thoughts on that.
Okay. I get you.
Yeah.
I totally get you.
And now we have just enough time to devote a large amount of the last portion to your wish fulfillment.
Yeah, which is funny, because, I mean, like, really, Sailor Moon, as we're talking about now, you know, yeah, I grew up with some Sailor Moon. It wasn't my favorite thing ever, but was it a thing I watched? Absolutely, sure. And as I was saying, I said it earlier in the show, I said it in other episodes that we've done, it blew my mind that we could live in a world where Sailor Moon is so well known here in North America, right?
Right.
And yet, we can lose the license for 10 years. That makes no sense to me at all whatsoever.
Yeah, no Disney Vault, no nothing. It was just gone.
Yeah,
and
just ADV was like, here, we'll give you uncut DVDs. This is what
do you mean by uncut ADV? What do you mean?
Oh, we mean 2 full seasons, and when I say full seasons, I mean we're gonna leave off some episodes. Oh, and they're gonna be full unedited episodes. Of course, when we say unedited, we mean we're not going to give you the previews for the next episodes or anything. Also, the audio is gonna be really murky, and the translation's not gonna be all that great. So, but here you go. It's about the most complete thing you'll ever get. So,
but that's not unedited at all.
No, it was not. It was not, and it was only 2 seasons worth, and it was.
And it was how expensive?
Very. Very expensive.
Very expensive.
In fact, one thing that pissed me off was I tried to find those box sets on eBay one time.
Right.
And I was like, yes, here's the box. And I got the legit ADV box. And then I opened up the box, and inside were all these bootleg DVDs.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of money on the legit box, but bootleg DVDs. I was furious. Absolutely furious. And then I gave up.
If you go and look right now for those discs, what's already out there, you're looking to spend anywhere between $150 and up.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's all we had. Because that's all we had.
Between this dollar amount and up, whatever up happens to be.
Well, up can get up there because Sailor Moon fans have had rabid fandom for over 20 years.
Oh, yeah.
In the States.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been clamoring just as much as you have. Where's Uncut? Where are we going to get this stuff? Going as far as making fan dubs for seasons we never got over here.
Yeah, for the Stars season, which, it was pretty clear why we weren't going to get it. The whole gender transformation thing, which now I guess we're no longer afraid of, because the good news to this whole story is that Viz did the most amazing thing they could have possibly done, and with this Sailor Moon Crystal coming out, which of course now they have the streaming license and the DVD Blu-ray license too, classic Sailor Moon has now been licensed in full by Viz.
And in full, we're not just talking about series, we're talking about all the series, we're talking about
every
the movies.
Season, all the movies, uncut, completely uncut.
Sailor Stars,
retranslated, redubbed, and available streaming legally for free on DVD and on Blu-ray.
Coming out this fall.
Now, the DVD and Blu-ray packages are not out yet. However, starting this past Monday, they've released 4 full episodes
to start with,
subtitled over on Hulu and on their PS3 and their PlayStation and Xbox app, Neon Alley, which you can subscribe to, and it's basically an all-dub anime network.
It's a decent service. It really is.
Pretty cool. I think it would be cooler if it were an actual anime channel that I could get through a TV service.
Through cable providers
or satellite providers, but it's a very, very cool network. So honestly, yeah, you can watch the retranslation right now over on Hulu, the first 4 episodes, and then from this point on, every Monday, they're releasing another 2 episodes every Monday until they release all 200 episodes, all prepping to unveil Sailor Moon Crystal,
which they also have the rights to.
Right.
They have the distribution rights, because we had been going back and forth on that, like, are we just going to have to watch it off Nico Nico? Is that how we're going to have to do it? But no, now we know. Viz got the license, so we'll be watching through Viz, through either Neon Alley, or they're on Hulu in July, when the series debuts. And if you were on social media last week when this was announced, like, there were so many cyber tears of joy.
Oh, it was wild. Actually, like, watching their announcement trailer as they slowly unveiled Sailor Moon is back, like, they drew out this trailer as much as possible. Like, it's every season. It's 200 episodes. It's uncut. It's subtitled. It's redubbed. Sailor Stars is here. We have the movies.
And you
cousins are now lovers. Like, they didn't say that, but
yeah, they might as well.
They put the uncut right on top of, the lesbian Sailor Scouts. So it was like, as every hit was coming, I was going, what? What? Like, and I was just about crying because I thought it was something we were never gonna get. We were never gonna get it. Stop it.
Sorry.
We were all convinced it was just never gonna happen. But I suppose there's no pleasing everybody because there are...
Yeah, I was about to bring that up.
I mean, I'm not gonna necessarily, unless you want me to, I'm not necessarily gonna go into just how rabid people are capable of being. However, yeah, there's people who have an attachment to the old Deke and Cloverway dub after Deke dropped their license and Cloverway picked it up and continued on with it up until Stars began, and then they were like, "Oh,
yeah."
Yeah, there were people with a very hard attachment to it, and for nostalgic reasons, yeah, I get that. And you do have to appreciate, well, I never would have even heard of Sailor Moon if not for this dub, no matter how bad it was.
Most of your North American audience wouldn't know about anime if it wasn't for Sailor Moon.
Certainly not in our generation.
Yeah, not in our generation, because, you know, later generations, they would have things like Digimon and Pokemon to get them in, or now eventually, you know, Dragon Ball Z Kai now. But that generation, the early 90s, that was our introduction that got you interested. There was something about it that you latched onto. It's like, this is drawn a little bit differently. I wonder what it is. And then you become fascinated with it. And you clamor after more of it and more of it. But there's some people who still hold on to, oh, that dub, no matter how bad it was, is the gospel. And there is no changing that. So when this announcement was made, some people got pretty pissed.
Well, like, I'll just say it's a little unreasonable to ask for the Deke dub along with this whole deal, only because that would mean you would need 2 versions of every episode. Because the Deke audio only fits an edited cut.
Right.
Because we hacked off so much time off of every single episode.
Because they hacked off time, there were the edits to violence, there were, you know, whole scenes cut.
Lots of visual edits, including flipped frames to make it look like cars were driving on the right-hand side of the road, because how dare this take place in Tokyo, you know?
Right.
But it did, and you can't hide that. Sorry, Deke, I know you tried.
But as such, it was refreshing on Monday to go back and watch those episodes, because I had only ever seen the Deke dub. That's what I grew up on. Admittedly, I didn't get into Sailor Moon as big as some other people did, but I at least admitted I watched.
But yeah, we did watch
all 4 episodes.
All 4 episodes that came out on Hulu this Monday, just marathoned all 4 of them.
Because, like most people did, because it trended on just about every social network.
It trended on Yahoo. It was the top scrolling thing on Hulu.com, just straight up Hulu.com, not Hulu.com.
Top search on Twitter.
Sailor-Moon, which is the address that you can go to right now. Hulu.com/Sailor-Moon.
Yes. But as such, it was so weird watching it again and seeing it from this different perspective that's not trying to hide that it's in Japan. And I laughed more this time. You know, I liked Usagi as a character more than I liked Serena. Now, admittedly, that has something to do with Serena sounding like someone in her mid-30s, late 30s, what have you. But she seemed like a teenager now.
Oh, sure, 14. She seemed like a normal 14-year-old girl.
Yeah, and as such, now with a new dub coming around, like we've said before, this really, before Crystal happens, this is what we needed. This is what's going to bring in a whole new slew of fans.
Now, you've got this tiny snippet of what you can only assume is the upcoming new dub right at the end of that trailer.
Yeah.
Which, you know, I'm still kind of iffy on. However, even if I don't like the dub, I'm buying either the DVDs or the Blu-rays because...
they'll have the subs on there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally satisfied with just seeing this uncut, whether I'm hearing it in English or not. I would be satisfied subs only. But if you're gonna tell me you're gonna go that extra step and you're gonna redub, like, I'm wondering what Viz did, because they were not the only ones in the running to get the license back. Apparently there was a huge bidding war, from what I'm understanding.
Well, because you think about it, you know, like we said, this franchise was so viable for so many years. This is like the holy grail of anime, you know, that people were vying for. Like, if you get this will beat a Viz, because they've gotten some big titles before, you know, Inuyasha, Bleach, what have you. But this will be for Viz what Dragon Ball is for Funimation. This
so
is their
you're saying
anchor.
that Funimation is the boys' licensing and Viz is the girls' licensing.
I don't know if I would go that far, because on both sides, you get boys and girls watching either of those titles.
That's very true. That's very true.
So I'm not going to be sexist about that.
No, I watched DBZ.
I watched Sailor Moon.
All right,
I ain't
there you
got
go.
fun.
All right, high five.
High five, all right.
All right, that high five sucked. Do it later.
Do over. But as such, everybody should have something to latch on to now. Everybody's got their options. And as such, I don't know how many people immediately after the announcement was made on Facebook, just the rows of people saying, "Shut up and take my money." Like,
oh, yeah. Beautiful tears.
Beautiful
everywhere.
tears.
Everywhere. And, you know,
manly tears.
Watching even the Hulu streaming, like, you know, it's streaming, so it's not perfect visual quality. However, you can automatically hear the difference between it and ADV's release. Because, like I said, their audio was so bad. I don't know what version they got, but it was so muddy and murky.
Yeah.
But this was crisp and clear. Just the audio alone was perfect. Shoot, I almost would pay for that, but I won't. Yeah. I'll wait to pay for an even better quality.
That comes up. And right now, somebody in the chat has gone ahead and linked to the first episode. I highly recommend, you guys got 20 minutes, go ahead and watch it. Take a trip down memory lane, or if not, invite somebody else, get them in on it.
Yeah, get hype, because Crystal's gonna be coming out later on this summer, and, let's do some comparison a little later,
Oh yeah, we'll definitely do some of that, because now we're able to. Because now we have both versions readily accessible.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
It's all I wanted.
Yep.
It's all I wanted for nearly 2 decades. It's all I wanted.
Yep. And now there's going to be so much more fan art and fan fiction.
Oh man, as if fan fiction of Sailor Moon wasn't already like a huge thing.
No, now it's going to double in size, if not triple.
Oh no, you gave me hiccups. We better stop the show.
All right, we'll stop the show.
Yeah, we're right at the end of time anyway, so we can certainly talk more about this and other Sailor Moon drama later on in our Q&A session. If you are watching us on YouTube, you should not be. I mean, don't stop watching us on YouTube if that's the only place you can go.
We appreciate your patronage.
But you should be coming over here on Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Central Time to hang out with us, because we like to hang out with you guys after the show for an additional half an hour and just shoot the breeze with you and answer questions and junk.
Yes.
So, that having been said, you can always catch up with us also over on Twitter, and I am at MarsGirl.
And I'm at Josh Knight First.
And I guess for now, that is our episode of Beyond the Black Rims for the evening.
So that having been said, we will see you guys next week.
Goodbye.